Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we are going to be talking about perspective, writing perspectives, the difference between perspectives and point of view, and tricks to make it improve on your own writing. So today we're going to be talking about perspective. I got February Scribbler box, and the topic for February is writing perspective. So the passport that we got this month was this very adorable little Scribbler passport about perspective written by Brooke Burrows, and her accompanying book was in the box, The Marriage Code. In this box we also got some Scribbler exclusives. We got a couple Scribbler pins and a little to-do list like notebook kind of deal. We also got this cute little write create poster. And then the little added bonus gift thing was, they always include something for like the publishing process, and this month's little bonus goodie was query letters, and so they included a modified query letter that Brooke Burrows had written for the Marriage Code. Oh, they also give you a little snack, because writing is never better unless you have snacks, and so there is some organic chamomile tea. Perspective. Let's talk about perspective. Perspective and point of view often get used interchangeably, so I'm going to talk about the different point of views that there are in writing and how it differs from perspective, and then we'll go into perspective. There are four main point of views that are used. There's first person, which is like the I, me. Second person, which is the you, your. Third person limited, which is the he, she, but with limited perspectives, so it's only in either one character or two characters. Or there's third person omniscient, I don't know how to say that word, where the narrator has access to all of the characters' thoughts in the book. So those are the four main point of views that are used. So for first person point of view, it's very limited. You only have access to the one character, but this can be beneficial because with first person character, it's more like they're telling their story and not the story. So you get it from a very personable perspective. So it's like it's the reader story that's being told and not anything else. Not the story. It's their very specific story. The second person point of view, which is not my favorite, honestly. It kind of wigs me out. But it is really good if you want your reader to become the protagonist, not just experiencing the story of the protagonist, but to be the protagonist, because it's your story that you are telling to other people and that your fate determines everything. This is really good if you want to break that fourth wall. Personally, that kind of wigs me out in reading. I love it in other platforms, but in reading I don't like it. But that's just my own thing. With third person omniscient, you do run the risk of head hopping, which is when you are switching in between character heads too often or too quickly, or with not the correct transition being done, and so it just kind of feels like you're hopping around different characters' heads. That is not a very good thing to do unless you are doing it very, very intentionally and very, very carefully. So if you're wanting to write in third person omniscient, be very careful with your transitions so that you don't head hop, and it makes for a really uncomfortable read. Now, perspective and point of view. The way they are different is your point of view focuses on the narration and the how of telling the story. Perspective is how your characters experience the story. You could have two characters in the same situation. One character can come out of that situation angry, and the other one can come out pleased, right? It's all about how they perceive the situation and what their own goals and motivations are. That will determine a character's perspectives. Like, there's the quote that no villain is the villain in their own story because of their perspective. So when you're thinking about perspective and point of view writing, the point of view is the how the story is being told, the perspective is how the story is being lived. Think of it that way. In your stories, when you're writing your perspective and you're creating your characters, a lot of new writers, and I guess some experienced writers, can fall into this problem of having your characters being really flat, not very dimensionable, having no dimension, An easy way to fix this problem is you should be able to know the motivations and perspective of every one of your characters. When you look at your cast of characters, you should be able to pick out the handful that are relevant for your plot. Like in Shadow's Voice, there's probably about 3 or 4 that are relevant in Shadow's Voice that you kind of get their different perspectives on. You should be able to tell very easily and quickly, I mean to yourself, not like in the novel, but you should be able to explain what that character's perspective is, what their motivations are, what the goals are, what their end game is, because that will determine their perspective. And if you can distinctly have that, if you can distinctly tell what those things are for each character, you're going to have a lot easier time making sure your characters don't come down as flat and underdeveloped, because they will have goals, and every human has goals, and they have things that motivate them and drive them. So you should make sure you give that to your characters as well. So in the little passport thing by Brooke, she gives a couple little advices and little tricks to help working on your perspective. And one of them is a really good writing exercise, and that is to pick a scene in your work in progress, your novel or whatever. Pick a scene and write that scene from each character's perspective that's in that scene. So if you have 3 characters in this scene, write that scene from that character's perspective. How does it differ? How does it change? What's the same? What does each character want to get out of this situation, and how does the ending of that situation affect them? How does each character think and feel about this situation, and why are they there? Like, what is their personal stake in the situation? You could do that, or you could write that scene from different point of views. First person, second person, third person. You don't have to necessarily use all of those, but knowing what drives your characters in each scene will give them valid and useful and deep perspectives. Something that Brooke also suggested doing to help you create unique and separate characters is to create a character worksheet where you describe what they look like, what their mannerisms are, their speaking tendencies, all sorts of stuff like that, and then have like a little stack of files of these worksheets so that whenever you're writing these different characters, you have something to fall back on to make sure that you're keeping them unique and different. Especially if you're a visual learner, that could be really useful to you. Another little like talking point that Brooke mentions that I think is worth bringing up is the benefits and drawbacks of different perspectives. So you can have, for example, in Shadow of Bone, I just finished this trilogy. It's third person, but the only character that you see or experience the world from is Alina. It's third person limited. You only get the one. But you can have other books, like I'm currently reading The Six of Crows, and it's told from third person, but you have multiple point of views. Each character gets their own chapter. So you can have multiple point of view perspectives, and there's pros and cons to each. So the benefit of having multiple character perspectives in a book is you can create that conflict within the reader, because the reader is going to be able to know the inner thoughts and drives and motivations of these characters that they're reading, but the other characters don't. So it creates this level of conflict, which, I mean, since her book is a romance, that works really well in romance, because you can get that tension that builds up. You can have, you as the reader knows what one guy is doing and why he's doing it, but why the girl can't figure it out, kind of thing. So if you want an easy way to create and build up good tension, multiple perspectives is a good way of doing that, because it allows the reader that reader level of irony, because they know more than the characters do. But once again, when you're doing that, you have to be careful that you're not head hopping and that you're able to create unique characters when you do that. Like my book, I made sure that my main character had very specific and unique mannerisms and way of speaking. Like Rose, when she's really irritated, she will cluck her tongue, which is something that I do. And so I gave her that my own personality tick a little bit. Especially when she wants to say something that she shouldn't, because it'll get her into a lot of trouble. She has a tongue click that she'll do. But my other characters don't do that, because it wouldn't make sense for their own character mannerisms to do. So, and that's another way to make sure you keep your characters separate, is giving them unique and different mannerisms. Oh, hi. You're so vocal. Come here, baby. Thanks for the mouse, honey. So on the flip side for that, if you have the single perspective, just the one character, Brooke points out that that could be really beneficial, because your reader will be able to be focused and more invested on that character's single journey through the story. So if you want to create something that's a little bit more personable, a little bit more focused, and you want your readers to really identify with your main lead, then a single perspective would probably work better for you. So that was a quick little explanation, talk about, I guess, of point of views and perspectives and how they can differ. And I mean, you're not bound by these rules. Just know whatever you pick and whatever you decide to do, stick with it. You can't start in first person and then have your book ending in third person. That's a big no-no, and your readers won't be able to have any kind of trust and faith in you that your story is being consistent. And if you want to write in a first person and in a third person, go for it. I just finished, well, I didn't just finish, but I finished the Bone Shard Daughter. Where'd it go? There it is. I finished the Bone Shard Daughter not too long ago, and this had multiple perspectives. Whoops. It had multiple characters' perspectives. Some of them were in first person, some of them were in third person. And it worked really well for the story, as long as you're consistent. The key in this, I think, is being consistent and making sure your tenses don't get screwed up. Know what tense you're writing in and stay in that tense. That will help you immensely. It's really hard for me right now. I normally write in third person limited, and I'm trying in this new series that I'm starting, I'm trying to write in the first person, and I keep screwing my tenses up, and I don't know why, but I cannot keep my tenses straight when I write in first person. I keep going from present to past, and it's just, whatever, I'm working on it. So whatever you pick, whatever you decide to do, keep it consistent for that character, or that chapter, or whatever, however you decide to create your breaks, make sure you're consistent within that. What do you guys think about perspective and point of view? Like, is there one that you struggle with more? I definitely struggle with writing in first person. I don't know why, but I can't get the tenses straight. I keep messing them up. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I've written in third person for so long. Maybe that's what my issue is. I don't know. No idea. But like, what ones do you struggle with? What ones do you find come easier for you? Am I the only one that thinks second person is weird? I'm willing to admit that might be a me problem, but it just wigs me out. I don't like it. Although I could imagine second person, if done well, would make a really good horror genre story. Like, you'd have to really work at it, but if you could make that work, that could be scary as hell. That could be good. Someone out there, I'm sure, has done it or can do it. I'm not it. But let me know your thoughts down below. Let me know what you struggle with, what you guys find easier. Are there tips and tricks that you guys use that you can keep your perspectives separate, you can keep your characters unique? What are your tricks? Let us know. This is the Grow as Writers series. I don't know what I'm calling it yet. This is the something about advice. Something. I don't know. If you have an idea of what to call this series, let me know. Thanks for joining me. If you have any tips, let me know. If you have any advice, let me know. What works for you, all of that. And I will see you guys on the next one.